I never imagined that the quiet neighborhood I moved into for peace would become the setting for the most terrifying chapter of my life. Everything changed the day a strange man moved into the house directly across from mine. He arrived on a warm Thursday afternoon. I remember looking out my window and noticing him immediately, not because he looked unusual, but because of what he began assembling right away. A large telescope. Not on a balcony, not facing the sky, but pointing directly at my bedroom window. At first, I tried convincing myself that it was just an unfortunate angle. Maybe he was an amateur astronomer. Maybe it was temporary. But the pit in my stomach told me otherwise. A few days later, he knocked on my door. I opened it just a crack, enough to be polite, but not enough for him to see inside clearly. He introduced himself with a casual smile. But then, without missing a beat, he leaned closer and said, "You look like someone worth getting in trouble for." My skin crawled. His tone wasn't flirty. It was predatory, flat, cold, intentional. I shut the door on him. He knocked again, and again. When I finally reopened it to tell him to leave, he just stared at me for a few seconds, then smiled and walked away without a word. I ran upstairs, heart hammering, and of course, his telescope was still pointed at my bedroom. The next morning, I went to the police station with everything I had. Pictures, my account, my fear, but they dismissed me almost instantly. One officer shrugged and said, "It's not illegal to have a telescope." The other added, "Maybe you're overthinking it." My experience as a woman had prepared me for disbelief, but it still shattered something inside me. I walked home defeated. A few days later, I looked out my window before going to bed. He was there, hunched over the telescope, but his movements were different, fast, frantic, disgusting. I realized what he was doing. When he noticed me looking at him, he didn't stop. He stared at me, expression blank, movements faster, as if he wanted me to see. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in my living room with every light on, listening for any sound that might mean he was outside. The moment the police station opened, I went straight there. They still didn't take me seriously. One officer suggested, "Maybe move or get thicker curtains." I left feeling invisible, powerless, terrified. Weeks passed. I avoided going near the windows, but I could still feel him watching me. Then the gifts started showing up. Flowers, chocolates, a book I had once mentioned at a cafe. He brought some in person too, always appearing overly excited, always trying to get closer. One day, he knocked on my door carrying a small decorated box. Inside were 2 dead frogs, neatly placed, as if arranged for display. He said they were in love, so I kept them together. Forever. I closed the door and ran to the bathroom again, shaking. He was escalating, and the police wouldn't help me. If the system wouldn't protect me, I had to protect myself. I decided to do something. I pretended like he is my new friend. I kept my distance, mentally, emotionally, but physically, I let him believe I was warming up. I invited him for coffee. I acted polite. I played along. My brother was coming to town that weekend. I kept my phone on speed dial, ready at any moment. During our forced, friendly interaction, he said something that made my blood freeze. "You have the most beautiful bedroom. You look even better up close." The implication was obvious. He had seen far more than anyone should. He tried to hug me, but I offered a handshake instead. The next week, he invited me to his apartment for a movie night. His choice? Silence of the Lambs. Every few minutes, he glanced at me, waiting for eye contact. I never gave it. But I noticed something else. He never let me near his closed bedroom door, not once. When I attempted to move toward it to find the bathroom, he grabbed my arm hard enough to scare me and claimed the toilet was broken. I knew then that whatever evidence I needed was behind that door. A few days later, I returned to his place with a plan. Wine, conversation, distraction. I slipped something into his drink, nothing dangerous, just enough to make him fall asleep. My heart pounded the whole time. When his speech slurred and his eyes drooped, he moved closer, whispering disgusting things, desperately trying to initiate something. Before anything could happen, he passed out. I gently laid him on the couch and went searching for the bedroom key. It was hidden in his wallet. The moment I unlocked the door, I knew I was right. It wasn't a bedroom. It was a shrine. The walls were covered with photos of me from my window, pictures of me with friends, shots taken inside my own home, notes, drawings, personal items I had lost but assumed I misplaced. He had built a world around me, an obsession. My hands shook as I documented everything with my phone. Then I left him asleep and walked home shaking. The next morning, I returned to the station, this time with undeniable proof. The officers' faces went pale. One even apologized. "We failed you. I'm truly sorry." They investigated further and discovered he had a history of stalking an ex. That same day, he was arrested. I watched from across the street as they led him out in handcuffs. He looked at me like I had betrayed him, but for the first time in months, I felt relief. His sentencing, 7 years in state prison plus mandatory psychological treatment. I survived, but not without scars. I developed a deep fear of strangers. I struggled with dating. Any unexpected knock at my door sends my heart racing. I left my old job. I left my old home. I even lived in my car for a month before settling in a new state. I'm rebuilding my life slowly, piece by piece. It's not perfect, but at least I know he's locked away and he can't watch me ever again.